I'm part of a community called Droppers. It is a support group for people who have fallen down wells. We're well droppers. So I fell down a well and it was very traumatic. Eventually, the fire brigade, they have a very strong bucket. They lowered it down and I sat in the bucket. So obviously Ricky Gervais was on the 11 o'clock show. We were quite close. Jump forward about 3, 4, 5 years and I see Ricky walking towards me and I panicked and I saw him and I went, uh-huh. And he went, oh, you're on your phone. And that was it. That was it. Thumbs up. Because I was too nervous to speak to him because I felt like a failure. We've lost too many. I know people that have died by suicide. I've come close to it myself, you know. Yeah, you know, talk to each other. The Samaritans, big fan of the Samaritans. You talk. That's it. I was in Aldi the other day, and as I was in there, the lad stocking the fruit and veg said, oh, better hide the strawberries. 7 years later, it's become for a lot of people how they identify with me. Fantastic.
Do you want a minty biscuit?
This biscuit you can only get from this particular shop.
What's that got to do with blue badges, Barry?
You know Robert Downey Jr. likes that call. That's a true story, the minty biscuit call. And Robert Downey Jr. said, have you heard this clip? It's really good, although the presenter is a prick. I'm the presenter. Robert Downey Jr. is out there in Hollywood right now calling me a prick. That's outrageous, right?
Yeah.
I prefer the orange ones.
Hello and welcome to the Ask Bigger podcast with me, Simon Hood. Conversation has always been at the heart of today's guest career. From TV to late night radio and counselling today. He's the host of the 11 o'clock show, Rise Breakfast Show, and a familiar voice on LBC, Virgin Radio, Absolute Radio, BBC Local Radio and Talk Radio. And a slightly surreal moment for me because we actually played hide and seek on air where I rang you up and hid under my desk. So I'm delighted to welcome Iain Lee.
I did wonder if you were going to say my name. I did wonder. Hey Simon, nice to see you, man. Yeah, we did. We played hide and seek on the radio. So I did, for those who don't know, I did phone-in radio for 20 odd years. And was on LBC and Talk Radio, which are now very serious stations. I would fanny about, and one of the things we did was a phone-in where we played hide and seek, where the callers, if I remember it correctly, had to hide somewhere, and we had to guess where they were. And then I went and hid, and I left the building, and I went and hid in some biffa bins down the road, and someone came and found me. This is like midnight on a Thursday night. Someone came and found me. Yeah, that was fun.
That's mad, isn't it? I remember listening to some stories about different things people have done on the radio. And I think it was Noel Edmonds who pretended he was hosting a radio show on an aeroplane.
Oh, okay.
And he had the sound effects and everything. And he said, right, we're just landing it. And apparently people arrived at the airport ready to meet him, believing that he'd flown there.
I did a show, I don't know how much to reveal. I did a show on LBC from Marrakesh. But and the studio was near Shepherd's Bush, and a lot of the guests were the Moroccan guests were from Shepherd's Bush. It's strange that we did. I can say it. We did a whole 3-hour show supposedly from Marrakesh, and we fixed the audio so it was very tinny and very hissy. The audio kept dropping out, and people bought it. You know, people. You've got the exclusive. I've never said it was fake. People. Believed it, and you know, we dropped the signal for 3 minutes, and the emergency tape kicked in, and all of that, and yeah. Do you know what? I don't listen back to my radio stuff. I might ever listen back to that. That was a fun one.
Some great experimental stuff that you've done and stuff over the years.
Well, the joy. So I did a little bit of radio, like local radio, before I got on the telly, and then I got the 11 o'clock show in '98. Then while I was doing that, I did some bits and pieces on XFM, but that was just, I didn't really enjoy it. And then when I joined LBC in 2004, very different station to what it is now. There's a lot of gardening phone-ins and plumbing phone-ins and stuff like that. And it was very old established presenters. I replaced Brian Hayes, dear God, died recently. And the boss said, our audience is old women who are dying, right? They were because they were so old. We want you to bring a younger audience in. I said, right, what do you want me to do? He said, do whatever you want. And I did, and I didn't know what the rules were in radio. I didn't know about throwing forward and teasers, and I didn't know about any of that stuff. So me and a brilliant young producer called Agent Chris, who you look a bit like, actually, and it was his first job, and we didn't know what we were doing, so we just made it up, and we just went in and fannied around, and we'd go in. And it sounds so tame now, but we went in and said, right, there's a government plan to close all libraries and turn them into Blockbuster Video because books are better than films. And if you say it with a straight face, there was another presenter on there, an obnoxious woman called Nana Rayburn, who I disliked immensely from the moment I met her. First time I met her, she grabbed me and went, I want to talk to you. And she was outraged that we were saying libraries, books, films are better than books. She was outraged and she complained, and I wasn't allowed to ever speak to her again and stuff like that. So I don't know what the question was, but the answer is yes.
Excellent. Obviously I've got my Monkees t-shirt on today.
Yes, sir.
You're a big fan of the Monkees.
Love the Monkees.
What is it about them that drew you into them?
Oh, man. When I was growing up, every school holiday, they would show the Monkees at like 9 a.m. or 9:25 a.m. weekdays. From as young as I can remember, I would have been like 8 or 9. And the first 2 records I ever got given, I got given 3 albums, right? One was the Black and White Minstrels. This is at the age of 6. The Black and White Minstrels. Don't Google them, kids. Don't Google them. The William Tell Overture and the Monkees' first album, right? And so from a very young age, they were always there. And then it became quite early on this obsession, like this quite weird, unhealthy obsession where all I would do was think about the Monkees and talk about the Monkees and play these crappy bootleg tapes to my friends at the Monkees. And it became this very, very weird obsession. And then I ended up working with them. I've worked with 3 of them. I didn't work with Davey. I met him, but I didn't work with him. I set up a record label with my friend, 7A Records, and we put out like Monkees adjacent records. So
you did an evening, didn't you? When you launched
Oh, we did. We put on an evening in a venue in London where we I can't remember what we were launching. We were launching one of the records. Maybe it was the Mickey Dolenz first one. And we had about 200 people rock up, and it was it was fun. It's really nice. I don't do that record label now. I've got a different one. But it's nice because the stuff that we did, if you go to Monkees biographies and history books, of which there are quite a few, my name gets mentioned now. 7A Records gets mentioned. So I've become part of the story. You know, it's been wild.
When I think of the Monkees, I think of you. I knew the TV show before I knew their music.
Yeah.
And you kind of almost introduced me to the music. So like, because everyone always knows Daydream Believer, don't they? Or Hey, the Monkees. But listen to the band.
Listen to the band,
You introduced me to that one.
Listen to the band. You want to check out go and listen to the band, Going Down, and the Porpoise Song. That will sort you out. Daydream Believer is the perfect pop song. I'm having it played at my funeral. If ever I hear it when I'm out or in the car or in a supermarket, something magical is going to happen that day. There's something very, very special about it that it's the perfect song, and it creates magic. And it's going to be played as I'm going into the cremation thing, and that song's going to be ruined for everyone at that funeral. It's going to ruin it.
I mean, speaking of animals, you still got your cats?
I got 3 cats. I had 5, and then I lost George. It was 4 years ago yesterday, or maybe 5 years ago, and then Muck. So I've got 3 cats. Yeah, Pats, Big Boy, and Lucky.
If they were to write a Google review about you, what would they write?
I said, what an absolute sucker this guy is. We can milk him for it. What they do is, like, so you feed them the same food, and then one day, all 3 of them will go, nah, I don't want that no more. What? All 3 of you? Yeah, I don't want it. we want the really, really expensive stuff. And because I've done it, I've tried. It's the weird. They obviously have a meeting and they stop exactly the same time, and you try different stuff, and it's only the really expensive stuff that will suck them in. I tell you, my cats are. I've got more pictures of my cats on my phone than I have of my kids or my partner, and they're all rescue cats, so they all cost like 60 quid. Each. But Patty, one day during one of the lockdowns, I found her in the back garden. She's this tiny little thing, and she couldn't walk. Something had happened. So I took her to the vets. She'd fractured her pelvis, and they said, we got options. We can have her put down. That's not happening. We could amputate the leg. I thought, cats with wheels instead of legs, that's kind of cute. They said, but we might be able to fix it, but her pelvis is so shattered, it's really, really risky, and it's going to cost you quite a bit of money. And I said, do it. I don't care what it costs, do it. And they did it, and they fixed her, and I went to collect her, and it cost me £9,000, and I did not have insurance. I'd forgotten to get insurance. Even if I'd had insurance, that would have only covered £2,000. £9,000, and she has not thanked me once. She's not thanked me once. So rude. £9,000 on a cat. Imagine. I would do it again.
Shows your love for them.
Oh, they're the best, man. They're the best. Cats are the best. If you don't like, do you like cats?
No, I'm a dog man, really. Sorry.
Let's hurry this up, son. Come on.
What's the weirdest thing you've ever found in your pocket at the end of the day?
Oh,
I've tried to think of radio topics.
I don't want to. That's a good one. I mean, it's always nice to find a few quid in your pocket. Here's the thing, right? I am one of those people. I haven't brought my bag. I've left it in the car because I'm trying to. I have a bag that's got like a Kindle, 2 gaming consoles, battery pack, loads of cables, just in case I get bored or get stranded, right? And what are you going to do? You need something to do. And normally my pockets, all I've got is a handkerchief, a wallet, a phone. Normally my cough sweets and old tissue paper, and you do not want to put your hands in my pockets. Or maybe you do, Simon. I just don't know.
The stranger thing I found is this old haunted key.
Jesus, that is
that
is terrifying.
I know you're
that's to a pirate's castle or something.
You believe in spirits, right?
I saw a ghost today.
Yeah.
I'm not even joking.
What do ghosts do in the daytime?
Well, I'll tell you what this ghost was doing. So I don't know if is this a top secret location where we are? We're in Worthing, right? And unironically, I love British seaside resorts out of season. I just think there's something very special. Anyway, went along the pier. And at the end, there's this big kind of like old-fashioned bar and restaurant, right? And there's 2 layers to it. It's 2 floors. And I walked and there were stairs on the outside going up to the top. And I thought, I wonder if that's open. Oh, there's a man at the top with one of those car seat baby buggies, and he's sitting down. He's just sat down with that. It must be open. I went up there. That man was not there. That baby buggy was not there. You couldn't even get in. It was locked. And I saw it.
Wow.
You don't seem as impressed with that story as I was hoping. I thought it was going to engender a much bigger...
I mean, I know...
It's a dead man with a baby buggy.
But I know you fell down a well
Baby
before.
seat. Yes, I fell down a well.
Now, so I always take things with a pinch of salt.
You've raised it in a very insensitive fashion, but I will be the bigger man and will push through this. I'm part of a community called Droppers, right? Well droppers. And what that is, it's people, I don't know why he's laughing, this is serious. It's a community, a support group for people who have fallen down wells. We're well droppers. What is going on? I will push through this because this is what my message is about. It's about hope and it's about education. Well droppers. So I fell down a well and it was very traumatic. It was like this well near Milton Keynes, and I wanted to make a wish in it because I've been having a lot of bad luck, right? So I flicked 20 pence in. Instead of dropping it, I flicked it like that. And it got stuck in the moss near the top of the well. Well, it doesn't count as a wish. It's got to hit the water for it to be a wish. So I leant over to get it. fell down the well. I'm absolutely screwed. And I'm doing a show that night, a radio show that night. I had like, it would go from like 1 bar to no bars on the phone. And I managed to tweet what was going on. And I said, I'm really sorry, guys, I might not make the show tonight. I've fallen down a well. Eventually, the fire brigade came. They blue lighted me. They rescued me, blue lighted me, took me to hospital. It's normally the ambulance job, but the fire brigade did it. I made it to the radio station half an hour late. I had to wear a neck brace. I'd hurt my neck. And it became big story. It was in all the newspapers. There is video footage of me and Good Morning Britain. I thought they were actually quite mean. They said, would you come on and talk about it? And I said, well, are you going to take it seriously? And they said, yes. Go and look at that video footage. It's on YouTube. They did not take it seriously. Do you know what they did? They got a tiny well and made me reenact it. Imagine that. Imagine you've been in a car crash and they give you a tiny car and they say, go on, what happened? They did it with a tiny well and they were absolutely wetting themselves. Well droppers, you are not alone. It happens way more than... Somewhere in the world right now, there are 5 people trapped in a well.
How did they get you up from the well? Like a rope down there? Or
they had, the fire brigade they have very strong rope and they have a very strong bucket. Because sometimes they have to get water out of the well for fires, right? Fires in the woods. If there's like a cottage made of candy on fire, they've got to get it. So they lowered it down and I sat in the bucket.
Okay.
And was pulled up.
How tall are you?
6'4".
Wow, imagine that.
It's a strong bucket, but they saved my life. Those guys saved my life. Peace out.
And in the L, you got attacked by an L, which also made the papers.
It was a really tough month. It was a tough month. I will tell you the story, and people will make innuendo about it, and they will make judgments. And I don't care. All right? Judge away. So, I was in this kind of it's like a little bit of woodland off of a lay-by on the A41, right? And I'm just there minding my own business. And I noticed my shoelace is undone. So I knelt down to do my shoelace up. And I got hit over the back of the head by an owl. I collapsed and I was covered in blood. Now, it was only afterwards I found out it was a gay cruising spot, right? People say, oh, you were on your knees in a gay cruising spot and you got hit over the back of the head. So they make up all these fanciful stories why I was on my knees with my... And yes, my trousers had fallen down to just below my knees. It happens, right? I lost weight and wasn't wearing a belt. Oh, you're on your knees in a gay cruising site with your trousers around your ankles, with your mouth wide open. I chipped a tooth as well, with your mouth wide open. Oh, we know what you're doing. You don't. I was attacked by an owl.
You had a bandage on it.
I had a bloody bandage. Yeah. I'm not swearing.
Yeah.
It was bloody.
But anyway, ghosts.
Yeah.
So this key.
Go on.
So I think it's an old key, because it seems to move on its own. It seems to move on its own.
Let's see. What the fudge is going on there? So I've got questions.
It's like it's got life, come from the.
It's got come from where?
It's come from the.
It's come from where? Is the key haunted? Is the property haunted? Or is there a ghost here now? I'm confused.
I don't know. I mean, you're a ghost expert. You broadcast from haunted places before.
We broadcast from the shittest... Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear.
Yeah.
We broadcast from the worst haunted pub ever. I think it was in Macclesfield. I was reminded of this the other day. And there were like all these ghost hunters. I do believe... I have seen spooky phenomenon, right? But I've seen it. And...
Was it Ghostbusters 2?
There's a reference for the kids. And we broadcast from this pub in Macclesfield, and just everyone was like talking absolute balls about, we think there's a spirit here. Where? Do something. I have seen spooky stuff, right? I promise you. There was absolutely nothing. I tell you who he interviewed once. I can't remember what their name is, but they are ghost hunters who also happen to be porn stars. Why are they always porn stars and not just like porn extras? But they're porn stars. Again, these are real people, right? And they would go to spooky places, like, and with the night vision camera and the voice boxes and the flat, and look for ghosts, and then they just screw each other at the same time whilst looking for ghosts. It's on, and honestly, I had to tell my partner I was watching it for the ghost stuff, ectoplasm flying everywhere. I was watching it for the ghost stuff because I thought their approach was unique. Is this being recorded or anything? I just noticed there's cameras here.
You like magic, don't you?
I love magic.
Yeah, I'm quite good at magic. Oh.
Not that good. Are you going to make that bendy wand go stiff? No, okay, that's that.
That's that one done.
Something's going stiff, and it ain't that wand. He smells great.
Thank you.
Here we go.
Oh shit, that's gone wrong. Don't look.
I've not looked at that. I did not see anything.
Don't look. I'm obviously a great magician. Do you know about leprechauns?
No, I don't. Tell me about it. Does it involve this thing?
So leprechauns always keep their money safe.
Yeah.
And they have a special pot to keep their money safe.
Okay, leprechaun pot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they have to pass money through the pot. So no one get it.
Impossible. That's solid glass and a solid coin.
So so this leprechaun taught me his magic.
Okay.
And he showed me.
Is it racist to say leprechaun?
It depends how you describe them, I guess.
Okay.
The little people you have to call them.
Now it's racist, yeah. Okay.
So they taught me how to push coins through glass. So I'm just going to show you that.
Okay, this is going to be amazing if it works.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
So that's a proper
That's a proper coin, yeah.
coin. You ready?
I'm ready.
Look, I'll just focus. Close my eyes with it. Look at that.
What the fuck just happened here? What is this?
That's good, isn't it?
What is this? I did not know I was being brought
Magic.
into a place that was fueled by the dark arts. Had I known that, I would have worn my talisman. I can feel my pink and brown chakras seizing up.
Do you want a minty biscuit?
Oh, don't mention the name. You mustn't mention the brand. Don't mention the brand.
Crunchy, they are. Lovely crunchy minty biscuits.
I'll have a minty biscuit.
Minty biscuit.
You know Robert Downey Jr. likes that call. That's a true story, the minty biscuit call. Robert Downey Jr. Has heard it. And it got back because Alex, who's Barry from Watford, is an actor and he has contacts in
It's
movies.
not real.
I hate that. I'm sorry. My friend Alex, who's an actor, knows Barry from Watford. Anyway, and Robert Downey Jr. said, we play it to like famous people. Have you heard this clip? It's really good, although the presenter is a prick. I'm the presenter. Robert Downey Jr. is out there in Hollywood right now calling me a prick. That's outrageous, right?
Yeah.
I prefer the orange ones. So, my question to you, Simon, who's the most famous person that doesn't like you? Call me now.
I mean, you're so good at improv, aren't you? I mean, we'll talk about silence in a bit.
Didn't say there were two minty biscuits, did he?
He broke it. He broke the silence.
Didn't say there were two.
One thing you taught me is never to break the silence first.
I can sit. It's only because I've got to get home. The thing, right, when I started doing TV and radio, I was pretty much paid per word. So, blah, 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 blah. And then when I went to Three Counties Radio, and I met a wonderful woman who is going to be my wife, November 21st, I think, this year, we're going to get married. But we were friends. Anyway, she taught me, if you're interviewing like a slippery customer, like a politician or a councillor, or a copper or something, you don't have to fill the silence, right? If you ask a question and I answer it and then you sit there and they then feel obliged to fill in the gap. And 9 times out of 10, they'll give you more information than they're intending to give you. And suddenly I thought, oh, okay, this silence thing, you're told on radio, you can't have any silence. This silence on the radio that's quite an interesting area to play with. And so that then sort of became part of the act of having long silences. You've got to be careful on some radio stations. They have a thing called an emergency tape. And if there's silence for like 3 minutes or something, the emergency tape kicks in and it plays like an old show. So you'd have to break that silence a bit. You just do that and it breaks the silence. And then I know you're going to keep silent after this. That's why I'm talking, so that we get to the end of the 4 hours of this. And I mean, I'm not faced with that. So silence was a big thing. And now I'm a counsellor. People come and let me counsel them. The silence is a part of that, because in the silence, that's often where and it's me being serious now, but it sounds sarcastic because I've been fanning about. But in the silence in the counselling room, that is often where the healing is and where the work needs to be done. So, sitting one-on-one with someone, and I mean, I'm going to stop and you can be silent. Blew it. I mean, that was pathetic. After the training I just gave him, that was pathetic.
I mean, we're going to jump around because I'm a little bit ADHD, as I know you are.
I'm not a little bit ADHD, man. I'm a full-on signed-up member.
Do you take medication for it?
I tried medication. And a lot of the meds are mainly amphetamines. There are other meds, but a lot of them, the bulk of them are amphetamines. And I am a recovering cocaine addict. I've not, I've got 5 years under my belt now. But I took some and I got a little tingle in my belly that was very reminiscent of like doing the first line or something. And I went, I cannot have these in my house because I will chug the whole bottle. So I didn't. And there's a part of me that wishes I could take them because I see the results that some people get from them, right? Some people think they're incredible and some people don't. And I want, for me, they were. But I've seen the results that some people get of that focus, of that productivity. So I'm slightly envious in that respect. I've learned to accept it. And I also learned that my ADHD is what made me successful in TV and radio. I think it's in part what makes me a decent counsellor. So, and it's what makes me a great partner and a great dad and all of those things. So I'm not about hiding or masking my ADHD anymore. I did that for decades, man. I ain't doing that again.
I think that's the thing I worry about is if you take that medication and it changes who you are.
Yeah.
If you are ADHD, it's a kind of superpower, really, and it makes you different to other people.
I think so. Some of us, I've been very lucky that, for my career, radio in particular more than TV, because you have to have some structure in TV, but I've been given free range in radio to do what I want, right? Very rarely have I done proper formatted shows. So my ADHD for 3 hours was, we're going to play hide and seek. Right, I'm bored of that now. Let's go and build a den. I'm bored of that now. I'm going to go and set fireworks up on the roof. Did that. We got in so much trouble. So it's worked for that. But there are many of us who do have straighter jobs or do have to hit deadlines. I've never hit a deadline, but they do have to hit deadlines. So for some people it works. And also the thing about, Elvance or the majority of meds, don't take medical advice from me, is you take them on the day you need them. So, right, I need to be focused today. I'll take my pill at 8. It'll have worn off by 7. I might have a bit of trouble sleeping, but that's it. So one is generally not taking it every day to knock it out. But I'm a big fan. I do ADHD workshops. I run them. A lot of my clients are ADHD. I'm a big fan of celebrating it, of embracing it. How can we utilize it? And also, my journey has been forgiving a lot of my behaviour in the past because it was not in my control because I can see now it was ADHD. And what that means is, the forgiveness means is, I have to take responsibility for my actions. If I was a dick, I was a dick, right? And I have to accept that, whether it's ADHD or not. I have to accept I was a dick to a lot of people. But I can also start to forgive myself in situations like in school. I had a teacher when I was 14 who said, Iain, you are the worst behaved pupil I've ever met and you're thick. You're thick. Imagine that. You're thick at 14. And I kind of went off the edge a bit more. But I carried that for years. And now I look at it and all those school reports, you'd have had the school reports, must try harder, talks too much, needs to still, doesn't focus. If you paid attention, you do really, not reaching your full potential. And I can look at all that stuff now and go, but I was trying my hardest. I really was trying my hardest. But within 5 minutes of sat in double German, it physically hurt me to sit still and focus. I couldn't do it. And that is the longest, most ADHD answer to whatever the question was you asked.
So where I was going with the question,
was
about and silence is about. Obviously now you're a counsellor. You've always been known for talking, and now you've got to shut up and listen. Has that been a struggle?
Yeah, that was the hardest part of learning the counselling course. For me, was learning to shut up because. I want to talk. There were two things actually I learned in that course. One was to shut up, and the other one, I think there were 8 or 9 of us, and I was the only bloke. And about week 5, someone said, "Right, I have to ask you. I know who you are. You're famous. Why are you here?" I'm like, "What?" She goes, "I know who you are. You're famous. Is this a joke? Are you filming something?" And half knew who I was and half didn't. And it all kicked off because I was famous, right? Are you filming something? No. Why are you here? Because my career's dried up and I want to be a counsellor. And there was a bit of that. But one of the people there said something and it really pissed me off when she said it. And now I think it's the best thing that one of the best things that's ever been said to me. She said, "Iain, every time you speak or you answer something or you contribute, you make a joke. Why?" And I was like, how dare you? I was inside, I'm thinking, how fucking dare you? Do you know who I am? And it really upset me. It really, really got me angry. And I went away and thought, right, why has this got me angry? I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to teach her a lesson. I'm not going to make jokes anymore. And then she'll be sorry. So the next week I went in and I didn't make jokes. And I'm thinking of all of these great one-liners and all of these great comments about Freud and his cigar and all of that stuff. And I didn't make jokes. And the next week I didn't make jokes. And at the end of the second week, I thought, oh, there's something in this. They're still liking me. I'm not having to make jokes to win them over. And actually, I'm getting a little bit deeper into myself in terms of the therapy work. So her saying, why do you make jokes all the time? It was one of the greatest confrontations, challenges that I'd ever heard. And now I say it to a lot of my clients because we mask stuff with humour. We mask, quite awful stuff with humour. And I will say sometimes to clients, why don't you try this week not making a joke? You can think it, you can think it and think that's great, but try not making it. If you do make it, think, why did I make that? What did it do for me? Was it protecting me? Was I trying to impress someone? Was it to divert attention away from something? Why did I do it? And if you're able to not make the joke, what does that feel like? That vulnerability. So, learning to be quiet and to stop going for a gag all the time is pretty much all I learned in 2 years. He said going for a gag at the end because he'd been sincere. Clive Bull, excuse me. I kind of got to Tommy a bit late, but Clive Bull, excuse me, Clive Bull is, I genuinely think, the greatest broadcaster this country has ever seen on the radio, greatest radio broadcaster, better than Wogan, better than any of them, right? Because he's been doing it for so long and he can do any style of radio. He can do your straight slightly dull political phone-in. When I was there, he would do these surreal, weird, random shows. We were kind of competing with each other in a friendly way. And he would do these shows that would out-weird mine. He could cover a national, if he's on air and there's something awful happens, he could cover that with sincerity and pathos. He can do anything. And the fact more people don't know about him, I think, shows how versatile he is. He can kind of, it's difficult to explain. He's also a very, very dear, warm-hearted man. I had coffee with him a few months ago, and I just think he's a beautiful human being, and I think he's funny. And I used to listen to him a lot late at night, a bit more so than Tommy Boyd. Tommy Boyd, I kind of got into for quite intensely. But Bull for me, Clive Bull is. He used to refer to himself as Man Cow, Clive Man Cow. Just nonsense like that, man. Ridiculous.
Let's talk about TV actually a minute. The 11 o'clock show, massive cult following now.
How your jeans are so tight. I tried the tight pant, and I just can't. I like my trousers loose.
Isn't it hard being a tall person and finding decent fitting clothes?
It used to be when I was younger. It used to be
a bit like that suit you used to wear on the 11 o'clock show.
Oh, the first suit I wore was this big thing, right? And I retrospectively said, "Oh yeah, it was inspired by David Byrne from Talking Heads." Where's the big suit? But that's not true. When I bought it, I genuinely thought it was a great suit. It's the first suit I'd ever bought, and I got ripped off in one of those like suits shops on Oxford Street when I was 22. I'd have been 22, and I went in and I tried a suit on, and they went, "Okay, what we'll do is we'll let it out a bit, come back and get it in 2 hours." And then I went back and they just gave me a different suit. I've now realised it was massive. So when I went for the audition of the 11 o'clock show, I was like, right, I'm going to dress up smart. I'm going to wear a suit. I wore this suit I bought it for a wedding, and I went in thinking I looked cool, and they thought, "Oh, this guy's made a bold move coming in a ridiculous suit." And it wasn't until quite a bit later when people would say Iain Lee in his big suit, I went, "Oh, shoot, oh, God, everyone's laughing at me." Oh, yeah, it's deliberate. I'm copying David Byrne in Stop Talking Sense, whatever it's called. It's a deliberate performance art piece. I was humiliated. I thought it was a decent suit.
When you look back now at the 11 o'clock show,
yeah,
and I know you've done a few talks about it recently. What memories do you have of the show?
I love it. I'm doing this show, Imposter Syndrome, where I took about for 30 odd years, a bit less than that, 25 years maybe. I had imposter syndrome throughout my whole career. Thought I don't deserve to be presenting this TV show. I don't deserve to be on the radio. Despite the evidence to the contrary, I'd worked pretty solidly for 25 years without a break. I'd won awards and all of this stuff, but I'd always had imposter syndrome. And I have got at home 3, 4, 5 boxes of VHS tapes, probably about 250 VHS tapes of stuff that I have done. 11 o'clock shows. If you see an 11 o'clock show on YouTube, my mum taped it. That's where they come from. My mum taped them on VHS. But like pilots and episodes of Rise and stuff like that. And I started digitizing this stuff and uploading it. And look, I'm not sat there watching 8 episodes of 2-hour episodes of Rise. I'm not mental. But I would watch bits of it. As it was digitizing, I'd come back and watch a couple of minutes. And I started to realise, Simon, I was all right at TV presenting. Some bits I'm actually quite good. Some of it is rubbish, and some of the shows weren't very good. But actually, I'm going to say, in some places I was really, really good. So in the last year, I've started to completely reevaluate my career. I'd always written off my TV career as inconsequential. And now I'm starting to look at it with pride, with sadness that I was given the keys to the kingdom and I threw them away. And so imposter syndrome is me talking about that, talking about how I'm starting to reevaluate my life. Clips from the 11 o'clock show. And there's a Q&A, and I show some clips from some other stuff that I've done, Ghostbusters 2 and things like that. And it's a really nice little show, I also talk a lot about Facebook Marketplace because I freaking hate that place. And there's a couple of rude songs in there, some very rude songs in there. And suddenly I'm doing a live show in front of people when I'd vowed I'm never going to perform again live because I've always found it too stressful. And I've done 2 of these shows. We sold out. We're doing a show in Manchester. Let's just say that ain't going to sell out. It's not selling too well, but that's okay. Because I've got to find if I don't even know if I have an audience. So it turns out in Milton Keynes and Bath, I have quite big audiences. So I'm putting this show out to see if there are pockets of people that are interested in me. And I've got this bug to do live performing again. I did a show with Catherine a couple of weeks ago. We did a game show at a place in Luton, Compendium of Games. I did a show where I was playing the radio in a bookshop. I've got another show where I sat on stage with an empty... I got so many ideas for shows. And this is in part because I'm allowing my ADHD to come up with this stuff. And in what I used to do is I would come up with ideas and go, oh, that's a good idea. And then I'd forget it. If I'm coming up with a good idea, I'm sitting with it. And if I've still got it 2 weeks later, it's like, right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to book a theatre. Much like you're doing with this, right? You've had this idea to do this. You booked this studio. You've written your questions. You've booked all of your guests, right? Why can I ask, why are you doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I suffer massively from a confidence thing. So being bullied at a young age, I kind of reserved into myself. And over the last 18 months, I have tried to rediscover who I actually am as a person.
Yeah.
And be brave to be that person again. So this is all about, when I walk into a room, normally I'm like the one who just sits and looks at the floor and don't want to talk to anyone in the room. But so putting 3 cameras on me, talking to someone of your character is a lot of pressure for me and makes me come out of that and test myself.
We've met a couple of times before, right? How are you, and you don't have to answer this question if you don't want. You say I'm going into counsellor mode. How are you feeling right now in terms of anxiety and self-confidence?
I'm okay because I'm putting a character on. Well, I'm not putting a character on, but I'm in front of the camera, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
when you're in front of the camera, you can turn it on.
Yeah.
Whereas after this, me and you will probably be sat here like...
That's very astute, and not many people are aware of that. That was the same for me in my TV career, right? Put me in front of a camera or in front of a microphone. It's fine. You put me in a radio studio right now and say you've got to fill for 3 hours. Not a problem at all. I can do it. The bits I always struggled with was during the ad breaks. Right? So you got a guest there. I got Dirk Benedict, the face man from the A-Team, right? We're on TV together and chatting to him, and I'm gently taking the piss and he's gently taking the piss and we're having fun. Okay, adverts. And what I would do I just wouldn't know what to say. So what I would do in the TV studio is go, the director's talking to me. And I would pretend the director was talking to me. Interestingly enough, that's a thing. I don't do it very often now, but I did it 2 days ago. I'll do the same thing with my phone. If I have to walk into like a bar or somewhere where there's a lot of people, where are you in? Where are you? Okay, I'll meet you outside. And I will pretend to be on the phone, right? Because I'm scared to walk into a flipping bar. Now, back in the day, there was something for it because I was a little bit famous and people would recognise me. But it was still, actually, that shouldn't make a difference. It was still low self-esteem and low self-confidence. Do you do anything like the phone
thing?
So
I've gone to events or meetings and I've walked in and thought, this isn't for me, and I've pretended to have a phone call and just walk.
You've done the phone thing as
walk
well.
Straight back out, yeah.
It's weird. It's nuts, right?
Or I see people coming towards me that I don't want to talk to or acknowledge, and I tell
you a story about when I did that. So obviously Ricky Gervais was on the 11 o'clock show. We were quite close. And then a thing that Ricky tends to do, I've heard from other people, is he'll be really close and then you're out of his life. And the last time I spoke to him, he was in the dressing room for room 101. God knows when, 2002, I don't know. And he phoned me up to say he was really nervous. And then we never spoke again. Just never rang me again. Jump forward about 3, 4, 5 years. And I'm in London. I'm just off Oxford Street. And I see Ricky walking towards me. And I panicked. Because he was now like a global superstar, and I felt the imposter syndrome kicked in. I felt like a failure. And I panicked, and I saw him, and I went, yeah. And he went, oh, you're on your phone. And that was it. That was it. Thumbs up. Because I was too nervous to speak to him. Because I felt like a failure. I felt humiliated and embarrassed by his success, which had nothing to do with me. But I felt that.
Would that be the same today if you saw him?
Yes. I think it would.
Why?
That's an excellent question. It's a question that I don't have an answer to. I don't know, but yeah, it would probably be the same. Or it would probably be the same, I think. The phone trick's weird that you do. I don't think I've ever spoken publicly about doing that. Maybe I have on a podcast. But I've never met anyone else that does it. I think the playing the character thing, sometimes I feel we have to do it. As I get older, I play it less and less because I care less what people think about me than I have done in the past. I used to care a lot about what people would think of me. I don't really care so much now, but I will still go to places where I'm not very confident and I think, right, what would a confident person do in this situation? Okay, they would walk over to that person first and shake their hands. I'm going to do that. And it's like I'm in a play. Mm. Hey, man, I'll be more confident,
For me, it's also, I probably shouldn't say this, but I don't care. I don't care about them.
Okay, yeah.
It's just fake. It's just like, I see through the fake, like, oh, yeah, how are you? Yeah, I'm good, how are you? I don't care.
When my kids first went to school, like primary and like middle school, I don't know what they call it now, and like all the mums were in a WhatsApp group, and all the dads, I don't know if they were in a WhatsApp group, but we were certainly in an email group, right? And I didn't care about them. I wasn't interested in anything they had to say. I'm interested about my boy going to school. I don't want to be friends with you. I say hello, just drop them off. I've got no interest in what you're doing, right? And some people will think, oh God, that's so rude. So no, it's not. It's how I am. And so there's about 15, 20, and the email go around, right, rugby's on Saturday. We're all going in the pub and watch rugby. Well, I don't drink. And I go, I'm busy. All right, well, yeah, and then you get another email. We're gonna have a curry and do this. Oh, I work nights. And after about 6 or 7, me saying no's, they said, right, Iain, we're gonna do this thing at this time because we know it will fit in with your work schedule. And I bit the bullet, and I said, guys, look, thank you for inviting me, but honestly, I'm not really a very social person, so I'm always going to pass. They never spoke to me again. And do you know what? Freaking loved it. I loved it. I'd had the guts to say what I wanted, and I did it in a very polite, respectful way, and they didn't speak to me again. And I was free. Now, some people will watch this and go, oh, you bastard, you're cold. Why couldn't you be... Because that's not who I am. Some people will get it. I'm guessing you get it. Some people with social anxiety will get it. Go, I wish I had the strength to send that email. But and now I'm nearly 53, right? And I know the people I want to spend time with and the people I don't want to spend time with. And life is short. We lost my mother-in-law this week, far too young, right? And it's another one of those reminders that this whole life thing is wafer thin, right? I could get killed on the way home today, So why do I want to spend what time I have left, whether it's an hour or it's another 40 years? Why do I want to waste that time doing things and talking to people that I have no interest in? That might annoy me, that might upset me, that make me angry, or that I'm just bored in. Why would I do that? So I'm getting better at politely avoiding the people I have no interest in. The people that interest me, Catherine, her 2 girls, my 2 boys, and people who like cats. That's it. That's all I want to hang out with. And you, of course, dear boy. But that's it. And work, clients and TV work, that's a different thing altogether. I'm not in any way being disrespectful to them. This is in my personal life. They're the people I want to hang out with.
It's funny, I always think the only people I can be myself with are the kids.
Yeah.
I can be silly, I can be just be me.
Love it, man. I love it. I love... If you say, right, if you've got... People are such arseholes. If I say... I like hanging out with kids. Oh, you Peter. Shut up, man. Shut up. What a ridiculous thing to say. I find I get on better with kids. I get on better with them. I speak the same language as them. Kids from about like 4 till 11, when they find an adult that is an idiot, they love it, right? They love it. Oh my God, this adult is on the same level as us. Sometimes literally on the floor, same level as us. So I'm the same, man.
I mean, you've done that video on TikTok recently. I've seen that with the kids.
Yeah, I did.
Where you're trying to beat kids or something like.
So there's these in the round kind of talks. I think they're made by Jubilee, and it's people like Charlie Kirk will be sat in the middle of a circle surrounded by liberals, or there was another guy and he was sat in the middle surrounded by like far right. And I watched those and I thought they're a bit pompous and they're a bit dry. Wouldn't it be funny to do that with kids? So you got an adult sat in the middle going, all right, well, today I'm going to take on all of these kids and I will destroy them. And we got a friend's studio, a guy called my mate Jeff. He's got a studio in his college and they have a good relationship with some of the primary schools in the area. And we had 15, I think they were like 10-year-old, it was all girls that came. And we filmed loads of it. We've got about 2 hours of it and I need to edit it down a bit more. And we filmed it, and it was, I don't know, I mean, it's not hilariously funny. It's charming and amusing. They were all brilliant, I would say, right, I believe children should have more homework. What do you think? And you'd have this 10-year-old kid totally destroy him. And the point was, and I made it clear to them, I have to lose every argument, right? I'm an idiot. You are always going to win. This is not about me making you look bad. It's about you exposing me as this idiot, right, who thinks he's cleverer than he is. And we did that, and they taught me the Coco Chanel dance, and we played silly word games, and it was beautiful. Yeah, I need to. I'm off next week. I need to re-edit some of those things. They were great.
I mean, the 11 o'clock show, it wasn't just Ricky Gervais, was it? It was Mackenzie as well, Sasha, Daisy, Jimmy Carr, Robin Ince,
Mitchell and Webb wrote for it. Charlie Brooker wrote for it. Obviously, Daisy was magnificent. It was created by Harry Thompson, who created They Think It's All Over and loads of shows like that. It was, it was a remarkable amount of talent on that show. Lightning in a bottle about 5 times. It's ridiculous.
So I think it's quite normal to compare yourself to them people.
I resented Sasha and Ricky a lot because my dream had always been do a few TV shows over here, go to America, do a TV show, then make movies. That had been the dream, right? And when I should have been content with doing the 11 o'clock show, I should have been content and thinking, this is great. So when Sasha and Ricky went to America, and it felt like my career was stalling and going backwards. And I made a few decisions that were detrimental to my career. Made a few bad decisions. I got really resentful of them and really jealous. And I couldn't watch any of their stuff. I couldn't. This is when I was in the height of my drug addiction. I would take a lot of drugs for loads of reasons, but part of it was out of having a resentment, right? It's like you take poison hoping the other person's going to die. And that's what I was doing. I would shovel coke up me and go, these pieces of trash. So I had a lot of resentment. And it's like maybe in the last 10 years, I don't really know, I've been able to look at my life and see how blessed I am, right? And I'm not a movie star. I'm not a multi-millionaire. I'm not selling out arenas. God, it's awful. No, but my life is very, very different, and I'm very, very lucky with what I've got. So the resentment is I don't want to say 100% gone. It might still be lingering a little bit, a little bit. But Sasha and Ricky, Mackenzie to a certain extent, I'm still very good friends with Mackenzie. But Sasha and Ricky were phenomenal. They actually became, for a while, the two biggest comedy stars in the world. That's pretty amazing,
TV, you moved on to Rise, didn't you?
Yes.
Was there a lot of pressure on that? Because obviously Big Breakfast finished and then that started.
I didn't feel any pressure doing it. I loved Rise. This was 2003 and it got slated. And I bought into the slating a bit at the time, but actually I think it was a really, really good show. I know Vic and Bob loved it, and that was enough for me.
What did they call it, the Clint Eastwood?
They said I looked like a young Clint Eastwood. They said it's the funniest thing on telly and I looked like a young Clint Eastwood. I'll take that. I loved Rise. I wasn't very well during Rise. That was when I was at my most insane. That was when I was getting very, very sick with cocaine abuse. And then I eventually so that was 2003. I got clean the first time, September 2004. I mean, I've relapsed since. But so I was not very well at all. I was probably an absolute arse to work with because I was full of fear, but also full of drugs. And that brings out anger. We mask the fear with anger and stuff like that. I made some terrible decisions then. That to one side, Rise was great. I was having the time of my life. I got to fanny about for 2 hours every morning and try and make Kate Lawler laugh. That's all I had to do. And I love Kate. And I got to take the piss out of pop stars and soap stars and reality TV stars. And I got paid incredibly well. Best paid job I've ever had. And I loved it. And again, I wish I'd appreciated it more at the time. Wish I'd appreciated it more at the time.
There's nothing like that anymore on the telly, is there?
No.
Breakfast time. Why do you think that is?
Costs too much money and no one watches it. We got cancelled and they replaced us with Everybody Loves Raymond. And from what I was told, the viewing figures stayed the same. They might have even gone up. And doing a live show is really, really expensive. Really, really expensive. So it's money.
And then you've done other TV shows as well. I mean, when I was researching what to talk to you about, you've got such a long history of TV shows. Yeah. I mean, Fun Bandits was a very popular one. It's got a cult following as well.
Fun Bandits video game show with Alex Krotowski. Yeah, that was good.
The Persuasionists.
Oh, that was shit.
You think that's good though, don't you? Right?
I do. Right. So this is a sitcom that was produced by Damon Beasley, who produced one of the producers and writers of The In-Betweeners. Damon used to work on the 11 o'clock show with Ian Morris. And it was this sitcom about this advertising agency, and God knows why I got cast in it. I'm there with Adam Buxton and Daisy Haggard and Simon Farnaby and Jared Christmas and someone else. And it should have been great, but as we're filming it, I'm thinking, I don't know if this is any good. But it was a studio sitcom, right? So you'd film it on a Thursday and then you'd get the script for the next one on the Monday, and then you had to learn the script for Thursday, and they would keep changing it. And I did not have the memory muscles to learn a script like that. So the whole time I'm doing it, I'm trying to remember the lines, and I'm not a good actor, and in it I look very, very wooden, especially compared to everyone else who was magnificent. So I didn't really give it too much thought. Is this good? And we went to a screening. There was a screening of it. The press were invited to, and we're watching it. And I'm thinking, I don't think this is funny. And then it got panned. It got it's not as bad as everyone says, right? It's often voted the worst sitcom of all time. But what I say is it went from Tuesday nights at 9 on BBC Two to Sunday mornings at 1 a.m. And it's because they knew it was so good. They really wanted to boost that crowd at Sunday at 1 a.m. They really wanted to get the numbers up there. It wasn't very good, and it's a shame. I would love to have done more acting, but it's, I look back on it fondly. It was fun to do.
And talk to me a bit about Frank Sidebottom.
I was thinking about Chris yesterday, actually, a lot. So Frank Sidebottom, Chris Sievey, was an obsession of mine growing up. Alongside the Monkees, he was like number 2, and the first gig I went to was Frank. And on the bill was the man from Del Monte's, Ed Tudor, Pete Shelley, someone else. And I just thought he was great. And in later years, I became friends with Chris. Frank came on the radio show a few times. And there are two people in my life, three people, because I'm going to differentiate slightly between Chris and Frank, because they are different people. Chris Sievey, Frank Sidebottom, and Bob Mortimer. If I am sat in a room with them, I cannot stop laughing. Right, I cannot stop. They don't have to do anything, and I'm just absolutely on the floor in pieces. Frank more than Chris, perhaps. I don't know. And you know, poor Chris Sievey, God, he died so long ago now, and he had all these ideas. He had a couple of ideas for TV shows for me. He wanted me to host a quiz show where he'd be my next door neighbour, and the quiz show would be in my back garden, and he would just keep putting his head over the fence and getting in the way of the quiz show. He had another idea for a show he was going to film with me, where he was going to come and do a sleepover at my house. But then about 3 o'clock in the morning, I'd be woken up by him, like smashing stuff up in the kitchen and trying to play Monopoly and stuff like that. So he was great. And I need to watch the Being Frank documentary again. I've pulled the DVD out and it's by my PlayStation. I need to put it on and watch it. But I now consider myself, this going to the world of what some people might call pretentious, but I don't care about those people, right? I'm moving into an area in my life where I think I am becoming more of a performance artist, right? This thing where I sat in a bookshop and I played the radio for an hour. This show idea I've got called The Empty Chair, right? It's performance art. And I've read people would ask me who are my favourite comedians. Who are my favourite comedians? But actually, I don't have favourite comedians. I have favourite performance artists. I will always say Andy Kaufman is my favourite comedian. I don't think he's a comedian. I think what he did was performance art. Frank Sidebottom and Chris Sievey are performance artists. On one level, it's a bloke with a big paper mache head, but it's so much deeper than that. Also, there's a guy called Spalding Gray who I'm rediscovering. Marina Abramovich. Those are my favourite comedians, you know, but they're not necessarily doing comedy. There's a strange sentence, but it's true.
It's funny, at Christmas I played to the kids the Frank songs.
Oh, Christmas is really fantastic.
Yeah, they loved it. Loved it.
Christmas is really fantastic. It's my favourite time of the year. Everybody loves everybody else because everybody's full of Christmas cheer. Ho, 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 he, he. The world is just like one great big gigantic Christmas tree. Oh, yeah. Because Christmas is fantastic in the morning and Christmas is fantastic in the evening and Christmas is the most fantastic in the afternoon. Take it away. There we go. I don't know where I pulled that one from. That was a memory. That was a thread waiting to be tugged on.
So radio's been a huge part of your identity as well. What made you brave enough to take calls straight to air? Because a lot are scared of doing that, aren't they?
Oh, I just thought it'd be fun. There's a slight cheat in that you've got a 7-second delay. You don't have a 7-second delay on any BBC radio stations, BBC Local or 5 Live or 4. If you phone up, there is no delay. So you got about 3 or 4 seconds to drop an F-bomb or a C-bomb before they phase you out. Do that. I say that whenever I do a show and no one so far has picked up the challenge. Phone up local radio, drop a C-bomb. They won't have time to get rid of it. But on commercial radio, they do. They have 7 seconds. So if you drop a C-bomb, what I used to do is if you called me a C, I would call you an effing C, then I would dump it. So you'd get the insight, and then someone complained once, and I had to stop doing it. But so there's that element to it that's dangerous. But the thing that most people would struggle with is, what do you say to someone? You know, most radio presenters need a topic. Today we're going to talk about, I remember when I was at 3 Counties and I realised I was in trouble, was when they wanted to do a whole hour on Milton Keynes car parks going up by 30 pence. They wanted to do an hour on that. And I went in the toilets and cried. I thought, shit, this is what my life has sunk to. And so most radio presenters need a topic to talk about. Give us a call about this. And I prefer, you mentioned improvisation, I prefer the spontaneity, you know, and I prefer not knowing I'm sure I could have asked you for your questions. And sometimes I do interviews and people say, do you want to see the questions before? No, I want it to be a chat, right? I want it to be an informal chat. And taking calls straight to air for me is one of the ultimate improvisations, because people could phone up, make a fart noise down the phone. They can call you a C. They can do anything. And it's great, man. It's great.
And you're kind of doing that now on TikTok, aren't you?
Yeah. I'm doing what I call it the phoning show on TikTok, but I did have a phone number, but it gets a little bit fiddly technically. So I do this thing called the phoning show on TikTok. It's also a podcast. Go and listen to it. I describe it, although it's toned down a bit, I describe it as Derek and Clive meets Radio 5 Live, because it's basically me. What do you? Someone comes on, they click on TikTok, they click and they join your thing. What do you want? Excuse me? Why are you interrupting me? And people don't know how to respond to it, right? Or someone will say in the comments, you're not famous. How dare you speak to me in that way? I won the hearts and minds of the nation on I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. And people get very, very upset. And what I'm enjoying discovering is doing that show on TikTok in 2026 is like being on LBC in 2005. It's a whole new audience that take it at face value, that think I really am. And I wear a very cheap suit, right? And I'm often unshaven and the tie isn't done up properly. And I quite often it will say, I am famous. And people, how's Dad taking the divorce? People will take it at face value. And they say, I keep knocking the mic, sorry. They see a failure. They see a has-been who's desperate to cling on to any celebrity that might be there, right? But what Catherine sees and what the people who really get me see is a bloke having the time of his life winding people up. I'm not that angry. I don't care if people recognise me or not. But by me going, how dare you speak to me like that? I am famous, right? People get so angry at it. And they'll phone up and they'll argue with me. And I love it. And sometimes you'll see me kind of lean off camera like that. And that's just because I'm laughing so much. Honestly, it's probably the smallest audience I play to, but it's one of the things I'm enjoying the most. I'm enjoying it a lot.
I mean, you got the sack from BBC Radio, local radio, didn't you?
I got most places, right? Most radio places, you don't get the sack. They don't renew your contract, right? And quite often you'll get a phone call saying, right, don't come in tonight. Your contract's not being renewed. We don't want you back on air, because if you go back on air, they're worried you're going to say, well, the bosses are this, this, and this, and come and follow me here and all of that, right? So that's the way it goes. I would sometimes joke and say I've been sacked from about 15 stations. I haven't. But, and the BBC would argue I didn't get the sack from 3 counties. We had, there was this local story about this guy who was working in a sex offenders prison, and he was a gardener. He was also, and I use this term deliberately, a far-right Christian, right? And he was not allowed to preach in there, but he was allowed to garden. But he was preaching to some of these men that homosexuality was a sin, right? And he got fired for it because he's not allowed to preach, right? And so we did a story about that, and we had him on. I think we had a lesbian priest. We had a straight priest, both of whom said, look, the Bible is not anti-gay, right? This is a myth. It's not anti-gay. So we had him, and we also had this extreme right-wing Christian organisation on. And that was our mistake, because they were representing him in court, and they're canny. They're very, very canny. And again, I use the extreme right wing deliberately, right? Because this is not an anti-Christian thing at all. And I called them out for being homophobic. I said, you're homophobic and it's disgusting. And, and I'm doing this, I'm saying this. Anyway, I got the boot. for it because this organisation complained and complained and complained and complained and complained. They had a button on their website saying, "We urge you to click this button and complain about this presenter." And it emailed the Director General of the BBC. So he's got 500 emails. They were also the people that complained, I don't know if you remember, about Jerry Springer the musical. They complained about that. And I got stitched up. My boss said, "Oh, we've had a couple of complaints. Don't worry, it's going to be fine. We want you to go on air and do an apology." And they wrote me an apology. I went, "No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying any of this," because it was basically me going back on everything. I said, "I will apologise for my tone, but I will not apologise for the words or the sentiment. And you promise me if I do this, it will go away. It will go away." And it didn't go away. And the Director General got involved, and I was given an ultimatum. You can carry on working, but we're going to get an external production team in. You won't be able to work with any of the people you've been working with. And if you make one tiny mistake, you're out, or we'll buy out your contract and give you your 6 months salary and we never speak again. And so I took that option. I was devastated because we came out, Catherine and I was working with Catherine, we came out of the studio, we may have literally high-fived because it was good radio. More importantly, we'd done something important. Our boss, who then stitched me up, said, "That was a really good show, well done, you should be very proud of yourselves." And I was devastated. I had a proper nervous breakdown, just gave up and lay in bed for 3 weeks, not being able to move. It was awful. It was awful. It was the biggest betrayal that I'd ever had.
That's what I was going to say to you. Did you feel let down?
Oh yeah. And the thing is it grew, right? It instead of it just being this local thing, it grew. And the national press picked it up. And then it got picked up worldwide. I had Peter Hitchens defending me. I had Gervais defending me. It got into the New York Times. And then suddenly it spread across America. It was this story in America. And I'm just thinking, please just go. I want it all to go away. And suddenly I'm getting emails and tweets from Baptist priests in Kentucky, right? Calling me the devil, calling me Satan. You know, I'm getting thousands of messages a day, either telling me I'm the worst person on the planet or thank you for sticking up for us. And I didn't want any of it. I wanted it all to go away. Now, ultimately, I think it's kind of helped my legend, you know, and it did me in good stead with certain communities and stuff. And I know I did the right thing, but at the time I was devastated. Yeah, I got very, very sick.
I mean, I used to listen to that radio station on the podcast, and I lived nowhere in that area because you've over the years you've built a community of people who follow you around from radio to radio. Yeah. And then you cleverly, I don't know if it's intentional or not, you used to play like the unknown stuntman and Littlest Hobo. Yeah. And it's almost like you hear that song, you sit down, you lay in bed ready for the radio show.
I forgot, but do you know what? Someone reminded me of the Littlest Hobo the other day, and I'd forgotten. I used to play it every single day for about 10
It was like the theme
years.
Song almost.
Yeah, it was, and I'd forgotten that. My memory's terrible. I'd forgotten that. But yeah, I've been very lucky that I have built a community. It's a small community, but it's beautiful, of people that support me, still listen to our stuff. You know, I'm on Patreon, which is a great way of supporting your favourite podcaster or comedian or musician. And look, me and Catherine aren't getting rich off it, but we get a sum of money that, you know, she works as a teacher, I'm a counsellor, you know, that doesn't cover the bills. So we are lucky that there is a community of people that want to listen to us. And within that community, there's a community that will chuck us a few quid every month to carry on doing it.
It's like companionship. As a listener, it's like companionship, isn't it?
Thank you, man. I don't know, because I can never quite know what my friend Jimbo, what other people in this, what they get from it. You know, it's a little bit, I was going to say it's a bit like being in the eye of the storm. I don't know if that's accurate. We get some idea, but we've been very, and I'm now very, very good friends with some of those people, you know.
I'm going to bring the mood down slightly.
Oh, I thought the mood was down already. Bloody hell. Can it get any lower?
You got loads of different types of calls, and I know you've spoken about this before, but you had that call from Chris that time.
Chris.
I mean, you explain it. I mean, he called you up, and he was overdosing, right?
Yeah. So one of the things on the shows we were funny about, but also we'd talk about mental health and my addiction and, you know, my suicidal thoughts that I've had at times. So we'd created this space, particularly on the late night show, where people would phone up and would discuss their mental health. And we had this guy phone up, and he was a bit slurry. And I think I started the call. I think I took the piss out of him a little bit. And then he said, I've taken an overdose. Now, when someone says that, you can't assume that they mean it, right, on the radio, because people phone up and say, oh, crap. So I'm sussing him out a bit. And I'm noticed, and I said, your voice, do you normally, and he's talking like that. I said, is your voice normally that slurry? Have you got a speech impediment? No. And I looked at Catherine, who was in the studio, and we went, okay, this is probably real. This is probably real. So she left the studio and called 999. And I decided to keep him on air. The reason I kept him on air was because he didn't know where he was outside. He was in Plymouth. He was outside, and he was clearly very, very sick. So I kept him on air, and I said, right, what can you see? And he described this street. And eventually someone phoned up and said, I know exactly where that is. They then told Catherine. Catherine phoned the ambulance. Now, should I have kept him on after that? I don't know. The reason I didn't want to spend the 10 seconds going from the studio to the phone outside in case we lost him, in case he put the phone down. So I kept him on air, and I spoke to him for half an hour. For about 7 minutes of that, he was silent. So I had to just keep talking, and I thought, oh shit, he's dead. Then he came around, and then at the very end, you could hear the phone being picked up. Hello, this is the police. Thanks very much. We've got him. We'll take over from here. And that was that. And I spoke to him a couple of times afterwards, and what happened was he went to the hospital. He survived. He died, but they brought him back to life. He was in intensive care for a while, so it was real. And his story was, and I can say this because he came on the radio and shared it, he had been a train driver. Is it a train driver or an underground driver? I can't remember. And he had to help clear up a suicide, someone who jumped on the tracks. And that had sent him into a spiral that involved alcoholism. I think he became aggressive, and so he moved from his marital home into the shed, and he spiraled and spiraled. He had anger issues, and he was living. He'd moved out of that home, and he wasn't allowed to see his kids, and all of this stuff, right? And that's why he'd done it. And I spoke to him a few times after. I tried to save him. I remember speaking to him on Boxing Day, and I had my kids in the other room, and I got abuse from his partner. Are you fucking who was drunk, and I got abuse from him, and I just thought, this guy's life is so messed up, I can't save him. And my kids are in the other room, and it's Christmas. And this was the second call. And I said, all right, man, listen, here's the phone number for AA. Here's the phone number for the Samaritans. I've done everything I can. I really, really wish you the best of luck, mate. I hope things work out. And that was that. And I really, this was a big step in me becoming a counsellor. And it was also the first time I realised I can't save him. I can't fix him. You know, I was trying to get him into a rehab and all of this stuff, and he just wasn't interested. Okay. So, yeah, I have mixed feelings about that whole call, that whole period of it. And I don't know what happened to him after that. I didn't speak to him again after that. So who knows? Who knows? I'd like to think one day I'll get an email and he'll say, you may not remember me. My name's Chris, and you did this, this, and this. But I've got no idea. I
mean, that must have been quite an intense moment for you. And then when the police picked up the call,
burst into tears. Yeah. I burst into tears. I was like, it was horrible. Yeah. It was horrible. You know, it was horrible. That got in the New York Times as well. I remember did an interview with the New York Times about it. I think did I go on? I might have gone on American radio. We got this guy from the UK who saved someone's life. It's funny how these things kind of catch the wind a bit,
And you didn't do it for that at all. You did it because you cared.
I did it because I'm a human being, and I would hope, if I were in a similar situation, or I would hope someone would do the same. I mean, we've saved at least 4 lives on that show. That's the one that gets attention. But there was another caller who'd taken an overdose. We'd saved him. There was a guy who'd gone missing, who was off to the woods to kill himself, and we found him. And then there was another one. So I don't know if I tracked like really depressed, suicidal listeners. I don't know if that's the vibe my show gives off. Maybe that's why I'm not on the air anymore, because it's just too depressing for everyone.
I think it goes back to you being vocal and not being ashamed to talk about your own struggles. So it makes it a safe space to.
Yeah, I know people that have died. We've lost too many. I know people that have died by suicide, and I've come close to it myself. Twice in my life I've come close to it, and talk to each other. That's it. So people say, what advice would you give to talk to someone? Whether it's a professional or it's a friend or it's a parent or it's a teacher or a priest or the Samaritans. Big fan of the Samaritans. You talk. That's it.
I mean, I'm not going to mention too much about your own struggles and mental health. You had a brilliant conversation with Matt Willis.
Oh, yeah,
which was really open and really, really nice. What was it like being open about that?
Do you know what? I've always been open about all of that stuff. And the last few years, because my kids are now 16 and 14, and the last few years, I think, have I buggered things up for them? Are their friends looking me up on YouTube or on, the Daily Mail online and going, your dad did this. Your dad nearly killed himself. Your dad came out as bisexual. Your dad had a relapse when he came out of the jungle. So there is a part of me that worries. My boys, one of the good things about it is my boys know that they can talk, that there is help for drug addiction, that there are places they can go to and they can talk, not necessarily me. I don't really want to tell me stuff, but there is help out there. But then does this stuff about me get used as a weapon against them? Do they look at some of the stuff that I've done and feel shame and embarrassment? I don't know. And even if they don't yet, they might do some way further down the line. So there is a part of me that wishes perhaps I hadn't said quite as much as I've said. But it's out there. What are you going to do?
I mean, you spoke about on that show about wanting to kill yourself.
Yeah.
And that it was your kids, thinking about your kids growing up that stopped you from doing that.
Yeah.
Is that hard to think about?
No, not really, because it happened December the 20th, 2020, after, another kind of drug relapse that had gone on for a little bit. And, I was hopeless. I was in a hopeless situation, and I went into the garage and I jumped up and held the beams to see if they would take my weight if I bought a rope. That's where I was at. And I was holding the beams, and I thought, oh shit. And quite often in those situations, the people, when they take their own lives, people will say, well, they didn't seem upset. And from my experience and the experience of what I have read, when people do take their own lives, very rarely are they sobbing and wailing. They're very, very calm and focused because they have this plan and this is the solution. It's almost never, that awful expression of it's the calmness. And that's what scared me, was how calm I was. I'm going to kill myself. And I remember I sat in the garden. It was freezing, but I sat in the garden. I had a little fire, and I thought, right, if I do this, no family members come out better when someone has taken their life. No family member goes, oh man, I'm glad he did that, or my life is so great now that she's done that. Not everyone suffers. So I got a choice. I can do it, or I can give sobriety one more chance. Can I do that? And thank God I decided to, follow the path of sobriety, you know. And I'm so grateful I did, because that was 5 years ago, December 2020. And now look at me, I'm getting married this year. Jesus, you know, that's insane. And I'm just in love with the most beautiful woman who every day I look at her and I think, why is she with me? Why is she with this fat idiot? You know, she's stunning and funny. I've got a great relationship with my kids. I've got a great relationship with the 2 young women that are going to become my stepdaughters. You know, my priorities have changed. I'm not wealthy by any stretch of the imagination, but I can pay the mortgage. I got food in the fridge, and I can put a few quid away each month to do stuff with the kids. That's it. And, you know, I'd love a well-paid telly gig. Of course I would. And it may happen, putting it out to the universe, because I need to pay for a freaking wedding. It turns out they're well expensive. But I'm feeling contentment as opposed to chasing happiness. Chasing happiness is a fool's errand. Contentment is what I aim for.
Let's talk about the counselling quickly. I imagine you get people like fans contact you to try and take part in it as well.
It's really interesting, right? I thought that would be a big problem, and I was thinking my birth name is Ian Rugby, right? And I was thinking, well, maybe I do the counselling under my birth name. And I'm glad I didn't. So I'll get emails from people. There have been 2 people that have sent me emails that I've replied saying, actually, I don't think I'm right for you, because they are clearly a super fan. I have a little chat with clients before we start working together again, so I can suss out, why are you here? Sometimes with some clients, so some people know who I am quite well, but they're not really fans. I wouldn't call them fans. Some people have a vague idea, and now some people haven't got a clue what I used to do. And I've had one client, like week 6, when I Googled you and now I know exactly who you are. And I said this to them, and I've said it to a few people. Why don't we set aside 10 minutes? You can ask me anything you want about that career. I may not answer it, but you can ask me anything you want. We can get all of that shit out of the way. And at the end of 10 minutes, if you think working with me is going to be, or after the session or whatever, if you think working with me is going to be an issue, then say, and we can walk away from this. But hopefully that 10 minutes means we can carry on with the work that we're doing. And I've done it a few people, they've never really taken up 10 minutes. They just have a few questions. You know, what was the jungle like? What was Ricky like? Whatever it is. So, and then we move on. I will say I have worked with half a dozen people in broadcasting, either current or who were in broadcasting, and they know who I am. And it's because I can give them a unique insight that they wouldn't get from any other therapist. You know, someone's being badly treated on a TV, you know, they're a presenter on a TV show and they're being badly treated by a director. Well, what do? You can't go to HR, complain about that. I can help put that into some perspective. I'm being deliberately vague, so no names, no pack drill. But
is there a lot of that going on?
Oh, fuck, television? Yes, there's shitloads of it going on. People being treated absolutely terribly by management and you know, places. So yeah, and I'm talking about the industry as a whole, radio and TV and all kinds of performing. Yeah, people get treated terribly. Yeah. And
you mentioned I'm a celeb, and I can't not mention that when I've got you here.
Do it.
That was an experience, right?
It was wild. I'm glad I did it. Someone who asked me yesterday. Someone asked if I was glad I did it. I can't remember. And I did it for 3 reasons, right? I was doing a radio show that no one was listening to, so I thought I'd go on TV in front of 15 million people and promote it. My kids were 8 and 6, I think, and they'd never seen me on telly. I thought now's a good chance for them to see me on the biggest show in the world. And I needed a lot of money, you know, and the people that ignore the money bit this, I wanted to go on a personal journey. They pay you really, really well. And I needed a load of money. I was in a bit of trouble. So, and it ticked every single box. And I was in there with arseholes. You know, I was Vardy and Wise and Carr and the lad from Hollyoaks, can't remember his name. They were arseholes to me, treat me like shit. You know, they were disgraceful the way they treated me. But I was also in there with beautiful people. I'm still friends with Jenny McAlpine and Shaparat Khorsandi, you know. And I'm really proud of what I did in there. I don't know, I made entertaining television. I did do some things I never thought I'd do. I jumped, you know, I was up 200 feet in the air and I jumped. And yeah, I'm proud of it. The good memories outweigh the dickery of those twats.
And you created headline news, didn't you, with the bullying thing and the strawberry gate? And
yeah, we stole some strawberries. Who'd have thought I came out as front page news? And this was 2017, right? I was in Aldi the other day. And as I was in there, the lad stocking the fruit and veg said, "Oh, better hide the strawberries." I love it. I love it. I love it, right? This silly little thing I did that was 2 minutes of telly, 7 years later, 8 years later, people are still quoting it. And it will be when I die. I'm a celebrity strawberry thief. Iain Lee has died. Great. I genuinely love it that I did something that at the time was so small and silly. I did it thinking, will my two best friends, Catherine and Scott, find this funny? Yes, they will. Can I withstand the flack that is going to come? I think I can. I'll do it. So this silly thing I did as a joke for two mates has become, I don't want to overstate it, you know, but it's become for a lot of people how they identify with me. Fantastic.
It was an iconic moment, wasn't it, for ITV?
I was pissed off. It only got voted the third top moment in I'm a Celebrity. Sure, that should be number one, right? Yeah. What's number one? Who knows? That should have been number one. Never mind.
And then after the show, it still continued this kind of war, didn't it, between Vardy and all that? And
she's a prick.
Yeah.
You know, she's a twat, and I mentioned something about her, and she released a load of texts that we'd exchanged, and I thought your phone fell in the North Sea, but there you go.
Was there any moment in the jungle where you were like, shit, I've had enough?
There was twice I was going to leave. Twice I was going to leave. And what they do is you go into I don't know what they call it, the diary room. I can't remember what you call it. And you go, right, I want to leave. Okay, Iain. Well, no, I want to leave. Okay, well, let's just. And so they try and talk you down, and then the next step is you go and see the psychiatrist, and she tries to talk you into staying, which I thought was wild. First time I went and spoke to a producer, I think. And then the second time it was the psychiatrist. I do remember, because when you're in the diary room, they're not allowed to tell you what's going on in the outside world. And I remember going in there, and there was one of the voices who was incredibly helpful to me. And I stayed in touch with her for a bit afterwards. And I said, I'm so unhappy in it. And I was in there crying. I'm so unhappy. Everybody hates me in here. And I really think I want to leave. And she was like, well, Iain, Imagine what it might look like if people on the outside like you. And I didn't realise that a lot of people liked me, right? I ended up coming third. And I was getting a lot of good press, and Vardy and that lot were getting bad press. But you don't know. She says, well, imagine, Iain, what it might look like if people on the outside liked you. But they don't. They'll hate me. Okay. Now, obviously, I can't tell you what's going on. But let's play a game where you imagine... And she did it. We were there for about 20 minutes. And in the end, she may have almost coughed. They like you. Something like that. And after 20 minutes, I went, are you saying the outside likes me? Iain, I can't answer that. But imagine. And I went, okay, I'll stay a little bit longer. So it was great. Do you know what? I would love to do it again. I had a lot of fun in there.
I mean, you're a big fan of Big Brother too, right?
Yeah.
Would you do that?
Yeah, totally. Well, how much are you paying? When is it? I'd love to. I would absolutely love to. I did get interview for Big Brother once. They didn't go for me. I would love... listen, I want to do more TV. I kind of stepped away from TV. It stepped away from me. We stepped away from each other. But actually, I would like to get back on TV, and I would totally be up for Celebrity Big Brother.
And Traitors is the other one.
I'd do any of that shit. Yes. But I mean, I wouldn't get Traitors. They've got like proper big stars. I won't get Taskmaster because they got like movie stars on there now. Wouldn't get Strictly. Wouldn't get the what's the Heads Off Sing Song? Masked Singer. Heads Off Sing Song. I wouldn't get Heads Off Sing. I mean, I'd be lucky if I got fucking Jeremy Vine's game show on Channel 5, you know. But Jeremy, come on, man. Give a man a break. Let me come on your wherever it is you're doing. Not the talk show. I don't like that. But I'll come on the game show.
You've done a lot of interviews yourself.
Yeah.
Best interview?
Oh, I mean, my favourite was Ringo Starr because he's a Beatle. Steve Guttenberg was great because we became friends and went out for dinner after it. Yeah, those are the two that spring to mind. Michael Nesmith from the Monkees, that was it. Nesmith from the Monkees was my favourite.
You mentioned that your mum recorded your shows. What does she think of you? Is she really proud of you?
Yeah, she's very proud. I've been very lucky. She was very supportive when, you know, other parents might have said you should get a proper job. She had faith. Can I just say something, right? People always say, if you're going to go into the arts, have a plan B. Don't have a plan B. People don't say to plumbers, you should have a plan B, just in case that plumbing thing. You know, people don't say to teachers, you should have a plan B. If you're going to go into the arts, don't have a plan B. Have that plan A and pursue it. Because if you've got a plan B, and listen, by the way, I'm not, you know, some rich guy. I was signing on. I used to get housing benefit. I was in debt. My mum lent me a load of money, and she wasn't rich. So, you know, I'm aware it's easier for some people than others, right? I wasn't up there, but I was perhaps more privileged than others. Don't have a plan B. Plan A it all the way.
You're a bit of an entrepreneur, I would say. Because you've had a record label.
Catherine calls it gonching. Do you remember Gonch from Grange Hill? Gonch was always trying to make money, and so she says I gonch, which is where I'm always on the hustle, yeah.
But you've also just helped relaunch
the man from Del Monte, this lovely little indie band from the late 80s, who I was obsessed, my second favourite band after the Monkees, and I have been part of them reforming after 35 years. I've put out records by them. They're off to Spain next week. Unfortunately, I can't go. So there's that. I've also been working with another band from the 90s called the Poppies, who did this amazing album called Honeybee. And they had a hit single that went all the way to number 89 called That's What We'll Do. And I love it. And it's not on Spotify. It is now. You know, I just got in touch with the main guy. I said, I really like your album. Can I put it on Spotify and help promote it? And he's like, yeah, sure. Okay. So, I'm enjoying helping bands.
Do you remember Periscope?
I used to love Periscope. What an app.
Yeah, so I was using that. And one of the ones that come up was a country music guy.
Okay.
And I got you to play him on air.
Okay, yeah.
And so I signed him up. I said to him, I'll represent you. And then he writes for the UK. I'll get you played on the radio, I said. And I knew you'd play him for me.
I remember this.
And you played him.
But you can tell me that guy's name was Johnny Cash.
Taylor Brandon, his name was. And I said,
I remember this.
What do you think of him? He was shit. So I sent him the clip, but I had to cut that bit.
He was great.
But that was good, Periscope. But back to my question in terms of entrepreneur. Do you have any advice for entrepreneurs?
Well, I don't really think I'm entrepreneurial.
You are. You've got a record label you come up with.
I don't make no money off it.
You're putting on your own shows.
What advice would I get? I get all right. All the things where I've put an initial outlay of money on, like with the band, the man from Del Monte, I paid for their records, with the 7A records, with the live shows that I've put on. I guess it's about having faith in myself, which is something 10 years ago I didn't have. Right. So now I've got faith in myself in as much as I know my ideas are good, and I know that I have a small but significant following, and I'm confident enough to put, to take the financial risk. listen, I ain't taking risks of tens of thousands. The records was a risk. The Del Monte records was a risk of about 1,500 quid. But I knew they would sell. It's not really about me. It's about them. I've booked a venue in Manchester. It's not selling great. I'll break even. I'm okay with that. It'd be nice to sell a few more. April the 19th. This may have gone out by then, but okay. Be aware of the financial hit that you can take, and have faith in yourself. I guess, is it? I mean, it's easy to say as a 52-year-old bloke, who has had success and has had crippling failures as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Iain.
You're welcome.